Okay, we're going to start now. Tonight's speech is dedicated to the memory of David Rachamim Chaim Ben Yosef, a friend of mine who I've known for 35 years. He was of Sephardic descent and was able to live his life both as an independent person and a person who was 100% given over to the values of his parents, who are still alive, and to the values of his children. And it was an inspiration for anybody who knew him. He worked for General Electric, has 100 and something patents there, was somebody who learned on a regular basis and started at a young age without really having any background, any serious background in Torah study. And sadly passed away on Friday from corona. Besides dedicating it, but I also want to remind everybody how serious the coronavirus is, and that please let's not get lax. I don't know if you have been observing that we should become more careful, more cautious. Going to supermarkets now, people are wearing masks all the time. That's an increase in the level of distancing that we must do from each other. All right, I'm going to go further and talk. I've noticed that there seems to be two messages about Pesach that I would like to bring together. Now, I will admit that I came to it trying to understand and trying to appreciate what would the message that Hashem wants to give us, that for the first time, as long as I know, that people are having their Seder only with their immediate family, only with those that they have the closest of connections. Why would that be a message? What would there be for us to gain from understanding that? And my younger sister, Frady, is for the first time in her life with her husband alone for a Seder. From the time they were married, they were with my parents and with us. And this is the first time she and her husband are having a Seder by themselves. This is true for a lot of people. And the question is, what are we supposed to take out of this? How are we supposed to respond to this? So that's what I'm trying to share with everybody tonight. This is not meant to be a definitive approach. It's meant to challenge our way of looking and how we look at the whole Exodus experience, how we look at what's happening at the Seder when we interact with each other, and trying to have a more positive experience because we keep this in mind. So as I was saying in the beginning, there seems to be two separate messages here. One of them is that the Egyptians enslaved the Jews. Terrible. It was a horrible experience. Jews died, right, and left. God went and made 10 plagues to show God's power, to show how little power really the Egyptians had. And then God came and smote the firstborn, and therefore God took us out of Egypt. That's one message. while that's happening, we get another message at the same time. And that message is about the priority of the family. Let's start from the beginning. When Hashem tells Moshe, you have to take out B'ni Bechori. Take out my son, my firstborn. That's a question of family. God could have said that you are evil, you Egyptians, or he could have said, let my people go. They are meant to be free. They're not meant to be enslaved. You're terrible for your enslaving Jewish people. He doesn't say that. He says, B'ni Bechori. When they come to the time when Hashem is ready to tell the Jewish people that you're going to have to make a Korban Pesach. That Korban Pesach has to be made Se Lebeis Avos, a sheep per father's house. And you know how important that father's house was? That's what protected you, because if you didn't do it in the father's house, if you decided to go away for the night, go to a hotel, Ritz-Carlton, doesn't make any difference, or a Motel 6, you wouldn't have been saved that night. What saved the Jewish firstborn was the fact that they were in their father's house, where they had just finished celebrating as a family with the Korban Pesach. So there seems to be two experiences that are happening simultaneously. And where do they fit in together? It's also very interesting that in the story, the midwives say that, you know why the Jewish women aren't going to, we cannot, Paro, you asked from us that we should go and we should kill the firstborn earlier. We can't do it. Why? Because the Jewish women are so committed to their children, they won't let us anywhere near them. The Jewish mothers, the Torah tells us, their sense of responsibility to their children, that even in the face when Pharaoh said he's going to drown them, the Jewish women kept giving children that sense of responsibility to children. And we have that Moshe, who was born during that period and was put into a little ark and put into the Nile. What happened? Who protected him? His sister. Who was the one who came to help Moshe to take out the Jewish people? His brother. And the Torah goes out of its way and say, Aaron, your brother's coming to help you. The idea that the sense of family is a prime mover and how we should look at what happened in the experience of Egypt, of the Exodus, is highlighted, and we talk about it every time, and we say that a father has to answer his child's 4 questions. Why can't it be a rabbi has to answer his child's the student's 4 questions? So once again, you have this side message about the importance of, and the prioritization, and the focus, and the desire for us to be impressed with what the family does, from the family perspective. I would like to offer a way of putting the 2 ideas together. going back to the story from the beginning when Avraham was Lech Lecha. The first time we meet Avraham, it's Lech Lecha me Artzecha ume Miladetcha ubeis Tavicha. Leave your land, leave where you were born, and leave your house of your father. So there's a Balei Tosus that I'd like to read, and with that, I'm going to try to put everything together. Vavorcha mevarechecha. Hashem tells Avraham, after you've left everything behind, you've redefined yourself. You remade yourself. Now, lo sitein libcha. Don't say to yourself, don't allow yourself to be intimidated, feeling less valuable. Lamar to say, Ainli Karov the Goel Ba'aretz. I do not have anybody in this land that's a relative to me, or somebody who's going to perceive himself as responsible for me. V'im yisna'eni adam. And if it should happen that I will make an enemy of somebody, v'yivakish li ra, and he'll want to hurt me. Mi amod negdai. Who's going to stand with me against him? V'imi yahavani. And if there's somebody who likes me, mi shalom lo gmulo, who will let him know that treating me nicely will earn you an extra reward? Ki adam sheyesh lo krovim. Anybody who has relatives that are powerful and wealthy, kulam ovim hachabdai v'hamaneu. Those relatives all care about how everybody treats their relatives. Now's the key line. Va'ani, that which it says, va'avorcha mivarechecha, that I will bless those that bless you. Va'ani eheya lecha la'ohev u'legoel. I, Hashem is saying, the idea that in the story at this point where Abraham gives up all his other connections to become the first Jew, Hashem is telling him that the relationship I have with you is I am now the one who loves you and cares about you. This is where it starts, the idea that we are B'nai B'chari. Hashem says that since we're the children of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, you have to realize that therefore I have become related to you. By Avraham giving up all his other sense of perspective and just seeing himself only as God's relative, Hashem is saying that I will be the one who will take care of you and worry about you. So much so that when your interactions with the whole world, I'll be right there with you. Fast forward. Abraham asks Hashem, he says, how do I know that the relationship that you have with me, and therefore you're going to be there for me and you'll make sure that I succeed, how can I know that'll happen with my children? How can I be sure that that's going to happen with my children? That they're going to not get lost in all the other excitements of the world and all the other enticements of the world? How can I have that confidence? So Hashem says to them, okay, let me tell you how that's going to happen and how you're going to know that your children will be able to inherit. Because it'll be many years that your children will have to learn how to build a relationship with me. You know, to be a success in the world we live in it really depends what your goal is. If your goal is to learn to speak Spanish, it takes 3 years. If your goal is to become a doctor, it could take 12 years. If your goal is to be able to become a God-serving Jew, it takes a lifetime. And their expectations are continuous and ongoing. And as part of the Jewish people, we have learned that it doesn't even take a lifetime. Abraham was not enough. Yitzchak was a second lifetime, not enough. Yaakov was not enough. Now you had the 12 sons and their children and their grandchildren and their great-grandchildren, till the point in time where we come now to the Exodus. We come now towards what we're going to be celebrating in 2 nights from now. The Jews now were completely enslaved. They lost any sense of their Jewishness. The way the language of the rabbis was that they were at the 49th level of Tumah. They were so low, they lost their ability to see how they could perceive themselves. They couldn't see themselves anymore as growing Jews. They were limited to the fact that they had their Jewish names, the Jewish language, caring for one another, and Jewish clothing. But that's it. And then Hashem comes along and starts showing them that he's going to treat them, the Jews, different than the Egyptians. The Jews will have water, the Egyptians will have blood. The Egyptians will have croaking frogs, they'll have nothing. And as this goes along, and as the Jews see that they're being treated totally different than the Egyptians, then the question that comes up is, how can we show who we are? We're living in Egyptian society. We're at the 49th level of negativity. Who are we? How do we know who we are? How can we become? So Hashem offers them 2 ideas. One of them is, are you willing to circumcise yourself? Are you willing to define yourself as a Jew? Number 2, the second, are you willing to go public as a group, as a family, and say that you are Jews? That we are Jews. We as a family unit, as a unit that's willing to support one another, are you willing to come together as a unit and define yourself as Jews? It's not enough just to circumcise yourself. It's not enough to come along and just bring a Korban Pesach. The question is, together, if you do it together, then it has a chance of longevity. If you don't do it together, then the chance of longevity that comes with a family is very slim. In the Western world, it's unclear what the Western world's view of families are, but we know that in the psychological perspective, whether you're going to go from Freud or you're going to go with the idea of every person's personality is defined by what place he finds himself in the family, if you're going to go with the issues of father-daughter relationships, family has been cast in a very negative role. Anytime you have a problem, it's somewhere in the family something went wrong. I believe that the opposite half of that is when anything good happens, it goes to the credit of the family. That's forgotten about in our society. That is not appreciated. That is not understood. That is not given the credit it is due. People are quick to blame. They're very, very, very slow to give credit. And we've talked about that many times. Anything goes wrong, it's God's fault. Anything goes right, it's all my credit. Same thing over here. Any problem I have, it's because of my family. I'm good. None of that's to my credit, my parents or my siblings or anybody like that. It's all about me. Hashem is saying that the definition of family is if you are somebody who cares and loves every person as part and takes up the responsibility and the objectives of other members of your family. Rabbi Milikowsky quotes a Malbim. All those who learn Daf Yomi know that it's very important to, in the morning when you say Goal Yisrael, right away daven, because if you mention Goal Yisrael and then you daven, then you're going to for sure be an Olam Haba. So the question is, what does one have to do with the other? So the Malbim explains that there are two languages used in Hebrew to describe somebody who's being saved from a more powerful enemy. One of them is hapoda, redeems, and the other one is HaGadol, also redeems. In English, they're similar. In Hebrew, there's a very big difference. When somebody is poda, somebody else, it's he sees a person in trouble and he steps in and saves the day. When somebody is goel, it's my relative is in trouble. I have no choice, but I have to rescue him. The act of geula is an understanding and an awareness of Hashem's commitment to us. And therefore, when he does it from a perspective of that he sees us as B'ni Bechori. And the idea that on the Seder night, when we sit down and we're going to go through the HaGadol to understand that the fact that he did all the actions he did in Mitzrayim and at Kriyas Yamsuf, he did it without any of our help. He did not want anything from us. Ma'amad HaSinai, he wanted something from us. At the Mishkan, he wanted something else from us. But at Kriyas Mitzrayim and Kriyas Yamsuf, he said, I'll do it all. All we have to show is that we see ourselves as part of his family. As we see ourselves as a family unit that defines ourselves as his family. That's the challenge. And that's why this year, with the coronavirus, we all have to spend extra time to understand how we come together as a group to embrace the values of Hashem, how we help one another understand how better to serve Hashem. And when we're explaining it to our children, everybody should be listening. Everybody should be thinking about it. And God willing, we'll take advantage of this. We'll become stronger families, greater commitment to each other, commitment to being part of Hashem's people. And we will earn, because we show that we have that level of commitment, we will earn having Mashiach Tzidkenu Bekarov, which is how we start off the HaGadol. Halach ma'anya, this poor bread, which took us out of Egypt, shall be the source to bring us closer, L'shana haba b'nei Chorin, L'shana haba b'Yushalayim, that we shall be able to earn the Mashiach to come there. Thank you very much. Kol tov.
Thank you, Rabbi.
All right, you're welcome.
Shkaya, have a good night.
Have a good night.
Shkayach, have a good night.
Thank you, Yashua.
Yasher Koach. Thank you, Rabbi.
You're
Good
welcome.
night.
Very inspiring.
Okay.